Proceedings of the Academy of the Dream Society by Michael Diamond. Season 2 of Torah Obscura Radio Hour. Episode 9. The Piyyut of the Djinn. The chamber of the librarian of last resort, a.k.a. the Registrar for the Academy of the Dream Society, lies just beyond the large oaken door. My beloved and I arrived together. We had penetrated the walls of many another institution of higher learning and repositories of arcana. I still remember our bedazzlement by the geometry of the courtyard of the Madrasa of Women in Marrakesh. The classrooms, however, were impenetrable. That was just before we found ourselves ushered into the sanctum sanctorum of the last synagogue of Marrakesh. The librarian gave us a mere taste of the delights of her collection, but the hour grew late, and we perforce did fly. The Eureka Valley's secret shrine, Master of Snakes, alas, did not yield its mystery. In Constantinople's ancient streets, we betook ourselves to the sepulchre of wisdom. There, too, was geometry on every surface the eye might light, though we did not speak the language. Baleful archangels, effaced, stared down at us from the sun-drenched dome. Gone now. We were geometrized as well in Andalusia's dust-strewn squares, by the crumbled majesty of the Alhambra, built over Shmuel Hanagid's palace ruins, by the visual labyrinth of Cordoba's La Mezquita, and by the silent sepulchral testimonies to Toledo's exiled Jewry. Yet nowhere did we receive the education we sought, only hints. I walk the halls of the Academy of Shem and Aber, ancient outpost of the Dream Society. Don't ask. That part of the story is shrouded in mystery. That is to say, I can't remember. I don't feel compelled to follow all the laws, I tell my considerably younger classmates as we bustle along. Some of them are simply irrelevant, and others are downright odious. I am a good 10 to 20 years older, a retread, new on this particular educational block, but emboldened by my surfeit of life experience. They say nothing. Suddenly, the pace of foot traffic picks up, and I find myself outside the chamber of the tutor to whom I have been assigned. A sweet-looking fellow, wispy of beard and steel-rimmed of spectacle, he barely gives me a look as he's engrossed in tutelage. The object of said tootling is not me. I stand perplexed, disgruntled, and even slightly alarmed. Had I made an error? Had they? Had he, kindly and blessed soul though he appears? I whisk myself over to the desk of the woman whose job it is to administer our comings and goings. Nondescript, though not unpleasant, she glances at me over her pince-nez rims and says flatly, "You don't even know the Piyyut of the Djinn." Her words, unelaborated, with only a soupçon of implied judgment, throw me back upon myself, searching the caverns of memory and forgotten lore for the slightest hint of the subject of which she spake. Faint recollections, moths to light upon the surface of my cerebral cortex. A Piyyut, the musings of a poet sampled in an ancient book of supplication, such as the weird rain verses for the Festival of Booths. Could she mean the arcane creature, Af-Bri, whose mysterious name is pronounced there and then only and nowhere else in the entire liturgy? A Djinn? What we now so blandly call a genie? Or maybe there are Piyyutim of Ashmodai, the Djinn who harried old Saul, king of Zion. And what of Lilith? I am sufficiently intrigued that my annoyance, along with its stronger emotional concomitants, flees. I would needs investigate. Upon my return to the academy, this time in the company of my beloved, I find a locked door outside the registrar, a keypad, and a phone. Lifting the receiver, I essay to make my presence known. "Yes?" comes the familiar nasal twang. "We've come to register," my simple statement of fact. "Password, please." the terse reply. The keypad glows before my eyes. My finger, sure of its target, punches the 5-digit code. 23273, the numerologic equivalent of Afbri, letter by letter. The Djinn responsible for rain in winter, the Djinn of the season's propitiatory Piyyut, the Djinn that would gain us admission to these hallowed halls. I hear a buzz and then a click. The wooden door gives way. My sweetheart's wrist in tow, I rush to cross the threshold. One at a time, the stern voice adjures. I bid my lover wait for me as the heavy door swings shut. The registrar's chair swivels round. I think I detect a vague hint of softening at the corners of her mouth. Nothing more. She smiles a cryptic smile and reaches for a large leather-bound tome on a nearby shelf. A bit of a reach over her massive oaken desktop. I thought to myself, should I offer to help? No need, she says without turning to address me. I'm quite capable of reaching every object in this room. I know that must be true. The crackled patina of the wide leather book cover hits the blotter with a satisfying thud and an attendant cloud of dust. A bright scarlet ribbon marks the page to which she turns in all due gravity. Her unmanicured finger traces a column of ciphers I cannot quite make out. Her finger stops, she smiles, and closes the book. She looks up at me and asks to see my library card. That's when I realize it is she, the librarian of last resort. I empty my wallet, my valise, my pockets, my suitcase, my shoes, my socks. She takes out her magnifying lens, ivory inlaid handle, bevel-edged glass. Her large yellow eye stares through the convexity at the matrix of objects played out before her. Only then I notice how fine her hands, how delicate her fingers, her plain manicure verging on puritanical. Oh, how I want to be touched by those fingers, caressed by those hands. I cannot explain it. I feel the ghost of my present self floating supine, parallel to the ground, 3 feet in the air. There is a tapping at the door to the warehouse of the wind, at the iron gate. We revisit the ghost pillow, the knot of the phylacteries at the occipital ridge, a possible way back from the catatonic excitation induced at this specific point upon return from the ghost path, where the governing vessel once poured willy-nilly into the sea of marrow. But now, the view of the back of the Godhead, the parade of the 13 mercies. An electric shock runs down my spine, a fierce caress. Spectral fingers move me, shift my tectonic plates. I hear someone say, "He killed his wife." I want to say that's not true, but my vocal cords are paralyzed. I am stuck in second gear. I have spent decades hunting for Job. By the time I find him, he will point his bony finger and rasp at me, "It's in the contract." And so it is. At first I try to foster indifference. After all, life is suffering. I think my gig is to ride shotgun on the pain train. Outside the tiny slit of a window in the alchemical study, a beautiful gray-blue sky glides across the fawn-colored earth. She walks her fingers to the sides of my rib cage. A momentary thought. She'll pluck out my liver. The twisted snake that winds its way through the center of my life takes another sinister turn. Who the hell are you? An old joke. A dropped missive in the quiet of the library. The ordinarily undetectable buzz of the yellow court is audible. No official presence. A subtle tinge of paranoia. Who is sending me all these messages? I write or I don't, respond or don't, laugh, cry, shout, gasp. At last, the place. She tilts my sacrum, raises me, and lets me fall. In the end, she finishes indexing all that I possess. I think, what about the bones? The 248 bones? She must know them all. I want to ask her about the bones, but the music is too delicious for words. Dolphin dance. The registrar, as I shall call her outside the alchemical confines of her laboratory, her library, hands me my curriculum and tutor assignment. A stiff smile. It's time to unstick myself from the chair and let my beloved take her turn with the librarian. Backwards, I shuffle my way to the door, clasp and turn its bolt behind me, and make a subtle bow to the mistress of the chamber before turning on my heel to exit in one loping gesture. As I cross the threshold once again, my beloved rises to greet me. A chaste kiss, she breezes past me into the registrar's office, the wooden door shushing closed. I am dazed, somehow feel my way to the bench just outside the door where I wait for my beloved's return. From time to time, I swear I hear muffled laughter coming through the door. It's hard to imagine that sound coming from the stern one. Long silences punctuated by what I take for animated exchange. Strange. The librarian's touch is still working its way through me, an odd thought here, a fleeting image there, a frisson down the spine. I wait 2 or 3 eternities, depending upon which system you use for reckoning. Then the door shushes open, and the librarian herself stands there chatting amiably with my beloved. I am really confused. "What a truly exquisite collection you have here," sings my beloved in her lilting contralto to the other rare bird with whom she is framed in the doorway. The librarian, at least I think it is she, yet her demeanor is so utterly transformed as to render her nearly unrecognizable, coos in response to my sweetheart's admiration. "Yes, it is. I have to pinch myself sometimes when I realize my good fortune at holding this post. You really must stop by whenever you can, between classes or after a tutorial. I take tea every afternoon, you know. It would be lovely to have you. And do bring some of your illuminations if you dare take them from your studio." The 2 women embrace briefly, give each other the customary peck on the cheek. Then the door closes again. I get up slowly from the bench, still nonplussed at what I had just witnessed. A friend, it seems," was all I could manage to say. My love, still in her own ecstatic daze, fairly burbles with excitement. "What a lovely woman, the librarian. I really think we hit it off. That's a place I could easily get lost in. And did you hear? She wants to see my illuminations." My beloved, her own, a dream come true. "And how was your visit with her?" she says as she turns to me. My heart stops for a millisecond. "Well," I venture, "it was pretty different than yours appears to have been. First thing, she didn't show me anything, but examined me rather rigorously. I don't think we exchanged a word beyond the first 5 minutes after I entered. It's so hard to describe. Such a surreal experience." Shaking my head, my beloved breaks in excitedly. "Yes, you're right. More surreal than I appreciated just sitting there. We must have pored over thousands of pages of manuscript, volumes and volumes from every corner of the collection, with the mere wave of her finger. Enchanted. That's exactly what I was. Oh, my sweetheart, this is the library of my dreams. And now we're both here." So we roll, each in our different yet conjoined trance, happily mystified, along the halls of the Academy of Shaman Aber, the Dream Society's antiquarium of choice. Call me Joey. 1 foot in the interworld, 1 foot on the surface of the planet. That's me, beginning, middle, and end. Just like my pop, Jakey, though he was more in the closet, strictly on the QT. But my old man, sheesh, some of his dreams were doozies. They say I'm his dream world double. He had 2 names, one for his dreaming self, the other for the man about town. A bit slippery that way, wily old Jakey. 2 wives, too, sisters, for God's sake. But I won't go into that. To be honest, I'm probably better at the art of the deal than he was, at least in the last go-round. I suppose I'm a chip off his block just as much as Grandpa Izzy was a chip off his dad, Pop Abe's. Doubles all the way down. Wonder if Jakey hangs out here. I've been away for a long time, but I'm back, and man, is it strange. Yet at the same time, so familiar. It's like my head is flipped inside out, all the dreams spilling over the pages and the memories of the so-called real world fading into deep storage. A new adventure. Better than being cooped up in a pillar of fire or a jukebox. Imagine. My gal is totally into it. Mother of creation, though I call her as not. A kind of cute private joke. So private that I've forgotten what the heck it means, but the name stuck. Oh yeah, like as not, that's it. If you ask her if she's into this, that, or the other thing, like as not, she is. Lady Wisdom. Amazing, really. She's the maker and doer in our little world, though the things she makes and does are actually out of this world. Like she's a beekeeper, can you believe it? Those little electric biodrones that home in on the food of the gods from miles away. Uncanny. But the honey is to die for. Me? I'm a dreamer, head in the clouds. I wouldn't say I'm proud of it. Can't exactly take credit for the way the manufacturer put my parts together, but it's who I am. In the other life, I had a gig that was totally wedded to the concrete world. You know, agribusiness, construction, eventually the music industry. That's when the dreams started coming back. Then I kicked. Oh well. So I get a do-over. What's all the fuss? Now ask me what this Dream Society business is all about, and that's another matter. Hard to explain, but I'll take a stab at it. Give you an example. A plain-clothes policeman in an unmarked car driving through a Potemkin village in a planetary simulation in the mind of God. The world and everything in it is a communist plot. Who would have thought? From each according to his ability, to each according to his need, bim bam bop. Simple as that. Everything else is just for show. But what a show. The trees know it. The paramecia, the birds, the mycorrhizome, the microbiome, all the organelles, the igneous and the metamorphic, the raging seas, and the polar ice caps. The whole kit and caboodle in eternal equilibrium. Even the humans can't ruin it. Well, maybe for themselves. It's a well-oiled machine, and we've all been invited along for the ride. But we crave drama, narrative arc, winners and losers, good guys and bad guys. The signals keep pinging down the matrix of matter, MOM, but we just ain't listening. Haven't got a clue. Nobody home and the porch light's about to go out because somebody forgot to pay the electric. Someone's watching us. We're nearly sure of that. Well, sort of. But it's no prince and pauper setup, I'll tell you. The whole world's watching. The whole world's watching. Once more, the whole world's watching. In plain sight, in plain clothes, in fancy clothes, in drag, in the buff, in whatever is in season. News gets around, gets toroidal, gets spherical, spirals and sparks. It's the universal party line, and everybody's listening, except us. We need bells and whistles and sirens and foghorns and nuclear alerts, reveille calls, gongs, silver triangles, Tibetan bowls, the last trump. Last call, what'll it be? Don't worry, it's on the house. You tell me it's a setup? Damn right it is. It is a simulacrum in the mind of one who does not partake. Mystical babble? Nope, that's just what it looks like if you're detached, disconnected, off the hook, not wired, unplugged, don't know the score, can't keep a tune, tin ear, tin man, tintinabulation, rin tin tin, bring on the noise, bring on the funk, bring on the midgets in the steamer trunk. Pain! It stops up the sensory apparatus, jams the signal, scrambles the message. Very effective. Then there's preoccupation. The seat is occupied. You are in occupied territory. No room at the inn. No room to let anything in. Of course, there's always good old intoxication. Food, wine, beer, spirits, drugs, sex, rock and roll. Yes, even rock and roll can stop up the portals and block out thought. Yes, it all begs the question, what is it we're trying to keep out, and why? That's where the Dream Society takes the stage. Stages the takeover, takes on the takers, staggers, stumbles, and belly flops onto the scene. A clown car for the circus, no ringmaster, elephants all the way down. Capiche? Well, it's not obvious, so don't worry about not getting it on the first go-round. We'll get into more stories on the subject presently, but for now, just write this down. It's information. That's it. It's all information to use, catalog, cogitate upon, ignore, whatever. Your choice. Make of it what you will. But for the love of God, make something of it, anything. It's your big chance. It's not that you could exactly blow it, but it does help to pay attention, make friends, have fun. Be nice, like your mother said, play nice. Don't hog all the toys. I made that mistake in the other life. I was a proxy for a big shot. Still, no excuse. Terrible consequences. Common mistake, so cliched. The whole following orders thing. Very deceptive. After all, where did the idea for all those obnoxious orders come from? All of us. Distortions of a dream. It's all in the interpretation. In fact, there is a line of sages, a kind of whisper down the lane, that delivers the story of the elder among them, a guy who was in both the schoolhouse gang and the fixers that came after, called him the Builder. Specialized in taking the dimensions of crypts, if you can imagine. Took the measure of the cave of the Double, where all my ancestors are buried, where I was supposed to be buried. But never mind. Anyway, the fellow has a dream, and he decides, God knows what reason, maybe an existential experiment of some sort, to take it to all 24 of the dream interpreters in this New Age capital vision of peace. Where else? So, get this. Each and every one of the gypsies or psychics or whatever they were, every last one of them, offers a completely different interpretation. Confusing, eh? Well, turns out not so much. The Builder tells us that all of the interpretations eventually prove true. Wow, kind of cool, I gotta admit, having practiced the arcane art myself for a spell or two. So here's what the Builder, crafty old dude that he was, concludes from his oneromantic investigations. He says, and I quote, "All dreams walk after the mouth." A bit cryptic, but allow me to interpret. The power of interpretation, and I, formerly known as Boss Joey, know from what I speak, is such that it creates a path in the matrix upon which said dreams may unravel or walk. After all, information is not static, it has to move. So if you give it somewhere to go, spell it out in words, like as not, there it will. QED. Also makes you want to be a bit more careful about what you do with your mouth. Just saying. But, like me, you might need re-education. Just check in with the registrar and see what she requires of you. Or you could get lucky, like my beloved, and waltz in like you've been there since the year dot. Don't know exactly how that works. Stories abound. I think it has to do with her daddy, Gift of God, paid-up member of the priest gang in Sun City. Same outfit that took down Aki and the Neff at Horizons. I won't get into that as it's not currently relevant. By the way, to confuse you a bit further, in my other life, Gift of God was my first employer straight out of Saddle River, chief enforcer for the pharaohs of Thebes. It was his wife put the moves on me, my future mother-in-law. I swear she started it. Landed me in the slammer. A whole nother story. Let's just say it was one of my many fortunate fallings out. Really jump-started me in the dream biz in a very unexpected way. Anyhow, back to Sun City. Location, location, location. That's where the complexity begins. Sun City is in Maricopa County, Arizona. Sun City is in Riverside County, California. Sun City is in Hillsborough County, Florida. Sun City is also in Barber County, Kansas, right along the Medicine Lodge River. You follow me? Sun City is frickin' everywhere. And that doesn't even include the so-called retirement residences scattered all over the U.S. of A. Definite Dream Society Potemkin Village action going on here. Sun City is both ancient and timeless, actually prehistoric, parahistoric, metahistoric, orthohistoric, and posthistoric, coming at you every which way. In the original tongue, they called it the Pillars. You know, like Jachin and Boaz, the two named columns at Aki and Neff's place. Pow, right? Amazing how it all converges when you look at it from the correct perspective, the perspective of everything all at once. Established by the dude they call Adam, as in up and, a real go-getter, or get-goer, more to the point, totally self-made. Started pretty much every major operation you can think of. Some say he's Adam Cadman in drag, but that's a really complicated story best left for another time. I'm telling you, the stories really pile up. Adam's original headquarters, or at least the place folks would come when they wanted to buy favors from him, turns out to be the major repository of every kind of information you can imagine, if you get the picture. Major bull sessions amongst the priests. I know what you're thinking, Dream Society archives, and you'd be right. Direct line to the academy, though I'm a little fuzzy on the details. Greek mob moves in, numbers guys as always. They bring in the quants, major mathematics. These guys can't get enough of that heady stuff, philosophy and astronomy too, for God's sake. And anybody who's anybody passes between those two pillars, some real old-time heavies. We're talking Orpheus, Homer, Pythagoras, Plato, Solon, and so on. Two major singers, a big-time math geek, and two world-class political philosophers. Must have had a hell of a time, though I don't think they were all there at once. However, it's about that time that Ossi, remember Osiris, the man of many parts? Well, he starts to muscle in on the action. He's slinging even more bull, and the Greeks fall for it. They up and move their headquarters to frickin' Memphis of all the upriver places, all to impress the funky designing Italians. So Sun City fades. By the time the Italian Goombas arrive, all they can do is tear the place down for spare parts. A shame, really. Some of the largest decorative pieces end up all over creation, like Cleopatra's Needle in London and its twin in Central Park. A real low point. But all is not lost. You see, though Sun City was thoroughly disassembled and scavenged for parts, pretty much none of it went to waste, like some kind of street-level apoptotic operation. Each of the many parts lies scattered and blinking in the matrix, just waiting for assembly instructions, ghostly replicas everywhere. Flea market of antiquities, all tagged and bagged and waiting to be ID'd by the assembler. And that, my friends, would be me. My dream job. The whole reason they rigged things to spring me from the pillar of fire where I was cooped up all those years. What a relief. I am the founder of civilizations, the builder of edifices. A lot of work to do, some re-entry requirements to fulfill, so no time to dawdle. Would be nice to get a little help, maybe a handy Djinn, what we of the tribe call a golem. I hear they can be had for a song, depending on who's singing. I've done this re-education drill more times than you could shake a stick at, or a pencil, as the case may be. You never know what they're going to throw at you, or what they're going to cull from your dormant brain. Kind of exciting in a free-for-all psychic rumble way, but generally not a walk in the park. Not supposed to be. They need to see what you're made of, mainly so you can see what you're made of. It's amazing the difference another pair of eyes makes. So I follow the drill. Been on and off probation a lot of years. It isn't easy, all the probing, but all part of the entrance examination process. A couple of weeks ago, I was stabbed in the back by a young man wielding two sharp toxin-bearing needles. Name's Dog. Either Curly Dog, Surly Dog, or King Dog. Not sure. A lot of aliases. very skilled, hit exactly the 2 targets he was gunning for. A whole lot of pain a few hours later, but that's okay. He was trying to help. I've had at least 2 other such probing experiences these past several moons. The swarthy one, a Highlander, inspected every inch of my somatic turf, she and her Barbie doll assistant, before she snuck up behind me and punctured me behind the elbow of all the sensitive spots with a dazzlingly sharp blade, the better to have a piece of me for further researches in the quiet of the laboratory. Nothing came of that one either. Then there was the kindly old dude, an Okie of the highest caliber, went by the moniker Crown of Bright Fame. I understood his nom de guerre more precisely as he probed the inner surface of my eyeball under the searing beam of his lightsaber. Only his calm voice and reassurances allowed me to withstand the assault. I returned to the Sky Bridge today, the site of much probation, this time for 2 separate interrogations. First was a young sprite, avatar of King Dog, kind and to the point. Seems I'm due for another visitation in his chambers next week. I shall gird my loins. Couple hours later, I find myself seated in the Okie's chair once again. We agree on much, though mostly existential small talk. After the social niceties, he bids me lie back and take my medicine, multiple stabs to both eye sockets with the aforementioned lightsaber. The news is good. Cleared me for further planetary wanderings with the simple pronouncement that I was dried up, detached from the window of moisture that lubricates one's perception of the world. Explains the weird, transitory shadows and scythe-like flashes that are wont to cross my path with increasing frequency. Illusory threats, best ignored. Hard technology to manage, monsters of the threshold of the future. All those messages coming over the transom letting a body know it's not long for this orbit. Kinda puts a fellow on notice. Some forms of probation are downright uncanny. Listen. She stands over me, one spiked heel aimed directly at the center of my chest. I dare not move. I stare at the sensuous outline of her face, the only stirring, a subtle energy at the foundation. I am transported to a court of law, the ghost corridor, as deep into Sun Samao's ghost point map as ever I found myself. She, no doubt, was drawn to me by the invisible beacon that sat blinking on the curvature of my forehead, lighting up the path for my third eye and hers. I am there in no time. It is there in no place. I am stopped at the point of entry, stripped of all connection, all communication, before I am allowed in. Only the blinking signal of my prefrontal cortex to guide me, invisible phylactery, memory of the Exodus. In the balancing of opposites, it is impossible to distinguish agonist from antagonist. The fraternity of guardians is a laconic bunch. All of their energy is gathered in their eyes. I wander unknowing through the halls of this impressive edifice, staircases rising and falling in every direction. Each moving staircase calls to a different part of me, tugging me to the 6 points of the cosmos. I have no map to guide me, unaware of Sun Samao's, no signs to indicate which way, only the presence of others. We are all lost and in the queue. Some give false directions with undeserved confidence. Some retreat in confusion. Some in a state of suspended animation. A sign comes. 2 signs. They float in air in a transparent booth just beyond our reach. They're held aloft by helpful beings whose names I do not know. I glean their scant information that I must proceed to one of 2 possible chambers of the court. I sense my time is running short when at last I see the letters of my name glowing, embedded in the wall outside the chamber's door. I float inside through 2 sets of double doors that close silently behind me, and I take my place upon the bench among the other penitents. We are the dark ones, the recipients of judgment. We are gathered here because we have received unwarranted attention. We cut the very profile of lowly supplicants. I contain my disappointment that the columns that line the walls of the chamber are not made of marble. I am in a lesser court of the Dream Society. She who would have me here sits among her fellow guardians, encircling the throne. All rise, the judge enters. The business of the court is swift and bleached of all emotion. Yet my heart pounds and beads of sweat form on my brow as I await judgment. He is fair, he is attentive, even compassionate. He does not appear to be bored with the mundane nature of our infractions. Why have the dark ones been gathered here, many to be released unmolested by the ministers of the court? Penalties are light or non-existent. We sit in enforced silence as the court proceeds with its business. A flutter of smiles is exchanged between the earthly representatives and the officers of the law. There is no palpable evil in this place, only a sense of diminishment, banality. One large man of paler hue makes the only impassioned defense of his innocence, his blameless years of traveling the surface of the planet. One woman smiles inexplicably as she receives the harshest penalty I witnessed meted out that day in the court. Perhaps it is the fact that the penalty had been reduced. Perhaps the crime, that she had taken the place of those less fortunate than she. One young man, a well-dressed member of the tribe, appears confused. The message that he carries to the court is irrelevant. His story, the line of his narrative, would be continued. Then my angel stands before the judge, though they're not as luminous as I remember. The annihilation of light as it nears its source. Her smile warms me as I stand at her side. My papers are in order. I had complied. I am dismissed. She smiles again as I go my way, vacated. Is there truly no price to be paid? Outside the chamber, I direct my query to a lesser officer of the law. He nods curtly and flies back into the chamber. All the time that I had held in reserve, all the business I had neglected. My vehicle awaits, having reconstituted itself. Nothing that a little duct tape couldn't fix. I gather again my connections to the whole buzzing world and return home, redeemed from the ghost corridor, headlights on, to start the day again. Probation is like that, inexplicable, but a necessary seduction. Many trials before success. Why I wasn't admitted right away. That's the understatement of the millennium. The total number of hours I spent in that bootless effort far exceeds the length of the actual enrollment. Put it this way, with all the time I devoted to endless admissions, applications, and the attendant questionnaires, prerequisites, temporary jobs, and probationary periods, I could have had 10 diplomas from each of the top universities in the Western world. My Eastern languages are a bit rusty, just saying. But I never gave up. Well, not actually gave up. Discouraged, yes, but never threw in the towel altogether. Something wouldn't let me, or somebody. I can't exactly explain it. Perseverance or just perseveration, don't rightly know. It's kind of interesting. Damage to the prefrontal cortex puts you right back into beginner's mind, infant's mind, ready to suck up the world with the vacuum inside your head. Perseveration, echolalia, echopraxia, all powerful learning mechanisms that are included in the factory model straight off the assembly line. No sorting things into categories, dividing things up, making distinctions, rendering judgments, parceling out little packages to be delivered to other cortical addresses. That mischief comes later, when they snap on the goggles, the blinders, the Victorian collar, the ankle bracelets, the false teeth, the whole suit of armor, the Iron Maiden. Much more challenging. But before that whole catastrophe comes to pass, a simple bonk on the head suffices to kick off unlimited psychic hoovering. Just don't try to file your income taxes, or parallel park, or plan a wedding reception. Way too complicated for the cosmic shop vac. Nope. Only thing you can do is sit back and let it rip. Leave all the car parking for later. Question is, how many times must a person be hit on the head before reality sinks in, before the filters shake loose? What does it take to clear the decks for the whole crew to climb aboard and hoist the sails for the next phase of exploration? What if there is no next phase? What if all there is was exactly all there will be? The four-letter name of divinity, an unconjugated, uninflected or-being, the explosion up and out, all those cortical tracts rising up the spine and bursting into the cranium. Lights up your face, blows your mind, fills your head, shivers your bones. World shaker, stoker of volcanoes, roller of tsunamis, cracks the cedars of Lebanon, quickens the gazelle, and rends fire from the slumbering earth. And that's just the application, the folding towards, the informing, inscribing, and ascribing, not folding and not writing, neither having ever folded nor written, nor not folded nor not written. Very confusing. Complications inevitably ensue, folding together and by implication folding in. I'd offer you explication, lay my cards out on the table, but I'd rather fold than do that. The energy wasted in explication better conserved, shared devotion, closely guarded, rather than plated, mailed, or sent flying over the net. You follow? Don't. That would be duplication, deserving of observation, resulting in double expenditure, duplicate bookkeeping, the works. It's exhausting to even think about it. Nothing in reserve. So there you have it, the mysteries of prerequisites, entrance exams, probationary periods, assigning of levels, the mandatory tutoring and prep, the seeking of campus jobs. All you've got is time, tons of it, weighed down with time. Yup, no weightless entity, time has real heft. You can absolutely feel it piling up. It starts to add up, accrue value, so that by the time you spend it, you have an exhilarating sense of all those chrono dollars flying out the window. Once they're spent, there's no refund, no complaint department, nothing doing. It's an utterly monodirectional process, or so it would seem, entropy's arrow and all. The reversal of entropy, now there's something. Above my pay grade. I haven't taken that curriculum yet. I hear the profs are kind of flaky. You know, those absent-minded types, wear Velcro shoe fasteners and clip-on bow ties. Nice enough, so I hear, but don't ask about office hours. Now, if you can get there. But that all depends on admission, what you're taken through. The stories are legion, the gathering of words, hand-picked syllables, confessions, really. Keep an ear to the ground, and you can hear them all thundering in, a cavalcade of applicants elbowing their way to the final proving ground, the bullseye, concentric trails that only touch each other asymptotically when time ceases to exist. One last note. It was a schoolie who wrote the Piyyut of the rainmaking Djinn, the Djinn called Afbri. Poet was none other than God's right arm, son of a sea biscuit himself, part of the Zion crowd. Mixed rep, that dude, even among his own gang. But he had staying power, still on the books to this day. Mixed up, jumbled up, shook up words were his modus operandi, his reasoned eatery, cake-takery, very influential amongst later wielders of the pen. Legend says that the great sage, Pride of Babylon, found a recipe for cake-shaped amulets in Seabiscuit's crypt. Cryptology, all the rage among these Goombas. But Seabiscuit's real obsession was with the whole castle and chariot crew, real mysterious stuff, way more complicated than the dumbed-down version in Dungeons & Dragons, just saying. Took down dictation on the beasts of sanctification, some kind of secret society, Dude was on fire. Ascended straight to the upper chambers of the Russian mob mall herself, Ayan Sof, she a major benefactrix to the academy, by the way. More on that later. Some of her inner circle clued Seabiscuit in on the mystic powers of the alphabet. That Goomba knew his abracadabras. A regular rainmaker, he was, still is, one of the immortals of the academy. Yes, the academy. So much to do in no time flat.